Welcome to Pod Studio, level up your fluency from trending topics. Today we are going to talk about Deepseek, the quiet giant leading China's AI race.
Back to the deep dive. Today we're digging into a company that's, well, kind of rewriting the AI playbook.
Yeah, we're talking about Deepseek, a Chinese startup, very low profile, almost invisible, really.
Right, but they're making huge waves, challenging the big global leaders in foundational AI. I mean, actually beating them in some cases.
It's fascinating. Their R1 model, for instance, recently topped OpenAI's O1 on several key reasoning benchmarks. That's not trivial.
No, definitely not. It feels like they've found a totally different path, sidestepping that whole high-pressure, VC-funded Silicon Valley thing.
Exactly. It's less about iteration and more about something fundamentally different in their approach.
Okay, so let's get into it. We've looked through the sources on Deepseek. They're really unusual funding, their focus on foundational innovation, and the massive price collapse they somehow triggered.
Yeah, that price war is a story in itself.
So our mission here, for you listening, is to really unpack the how and the why. How did this quiet company cause such a disruption?
And here's the paradox to keep in mind, right? Deepseek is laser-focused on the hardest, most expensive part.
Yeah.
Pure AI research. They want to unravel AGI.
They're deliberately not chasing commercial apps.
Right. But their technical breakthroughs, that very success in pure research, is exactly what kicked off this huge industry-shaking price war among China's biggest tech players, giants who are all about commercialization.
It's quite the contradiction. Let's start with the money because, well, that seems to shape everything else here. Their origin story is unique.
Very unusual. No venture capital at all. They are fully funded by a high flyer.
Which is a massive player, right? A top Chinese quantitative hedge fund valued at something like $8 billion.
That's the one. High flyer provides all the funding. Deepseek has apparently zero plans to look for outside money.
Think about the freedom that gives them. I mean, total strategic freedom.
Completely. They're just decoupled from market pressures, quarterly returns, investor demands. None of that matters. They can just focus long-term on the foundational tech.
And that kind of work needs serious compute power. Massive amounts. They publicly mention having, a decent number of chips.
Yeah, about 10,000 A100s, I think, is the public number. But analysts like Dylan Patel suspect the real number through high flyers clusters might be way higher.
Like upwards of 50,000 Hopper GPUs? That's a different league entirely.
It's a critical difference. That kind of compute isn't just for faster training. It lets you run these incredibly complex architectural experiments, things a typical startup just couldn't dream of affording.
So they have the money, the freedom, and the raw power to take these huge foundational risks.
Exactly. And they used that advantage back in May, didn't they, with the DeepSeek V2 release?
Which basically lit the fuse on this massive price war.
Completely changed the game. Their inference costs, what it cost to actually run the model, dropped to just 1 RMB per million tokens.
Which is what, like a tiny fraction of the others?
Yeah, put it this way. It made V2 about 1/7 the cost of running Llama 370B and maybe 1/70 the cost of TPT-4 Turbo. Just incredibly cheap.
No wonder they got nicknamed the Pinduoduo of AI. But hang on, that only works if the tech is genuinely cheaper, right? Otherwise, they're just burning through high flyers' cash.
And that's the kicker. That's the detail that really stunned everyone. DeepSeek CEO Liang Wenfeng came out and said they are profitable at that price.
Profitable, not subsidized.
Not subsidized. He claims it's based on genuine technological efficiency gains. And that basically invalidated everyone else's pricing overnight.
So that's why giants like ByteDance, Tencent, Baidu, Alibaba, they all had to slash their prices, even if it meant losing money.
They had no choice. Deepseek proved a lower cost structure was possible and profitable. They were forced to follow, likely at a loss, just to stay in the game.
Okay, so if they're profitable, the real question is how? How did they achieve these impossible-sounding costs? It wasn't just training a bigger model, clearly.
No, it was fundamental innovation.
Yeah.
Right down at the model architecture level. That's pretty rare for Chinese companies historically. We usually associate that kind of deep R&D with, the top U.S. labs.
So what are the innovations? What's their technical moat?
Okay, two main things they've talked about. First, something called multi-head latent attention, or MLA. It's basically a whole new way of doing the attention mechanism in transformers.
And what does that actually do? What's the practical benefit?
Memory efficiency. Massive memory efficiency. MLA apparently cuts memory usage down to just 5% to 13% of what the standard multi-head attention, or MHA, uses.
Wow. Okay, so you need much less hardware, less power, less cooling.
Exactly. Your operational costs plummet. That feeds directly into why their pricing can be so low and still potentially profitable.
That makes sense. And the second one, you mentioned too.
Right. The second is a Deepseek most-sparse structure. Think mixture of experts, but their own take on it, designed to minimize the computational cost, the actual processing needed.
So combine the memory saving from MLA with the compute saving from most sparse.
And you get this huge leap in overall efficiency, enough to run a really powerful model and make money at a price point where your competitors are bleeding cash.
Silicon Valley must have taken notice when that V2 paper dropped.
Oh, definitely. Semi-Analysis, they're pretty well respected, called the paper possibly the best one of the year.
High praise.
And we saw comments from like former OpenAI and Anthropic folks saying Deepseek must have hired a group of unfathomable geniuses. It's validation, isn't it? Validation for taking that big architectural risk.
A risk that maybe other Chinese companies felt they couldn't take before.
Perhaps. Which leads us nicely into the whole philosophy behind Deepseek. The CEO, Liang Wenfeng, seems to be actively pushing back against that old narrative.
You mean the one where America does the 0 to 1 invention and China excels at the 1 to 10 application and scaling?
Exactly. He fundamentally rejects that. His company's mission statement is incredibly focused, just unraveling the mystery of AGI with curiosity. That's it.
So things like safety alignment, commercial races, IPOs, just not their focus.
Explicitly set aside. It's all about the core science. He seems to justify this intense focus by being realistic about where things stand globally.
He thinks Chinese models are still behind.
Yeah, he estimates about 2 generations behind the frontier, needing maybe 4 times the compute power to get the same results.
4 times. Where does that deficit come from?
He breaks it down. Roughly a 2-fold gap because of model structure and training methods, and another 2-fold gap in data efficiency. Deepseek's whole reason for being, it seems, is to close that gap.
But not by copying or scaling faster?
No, by original, fundamental innovation, which needs that financial freedom, that compute muscle, and arguably a certain kind of idealistic mindset.
Okay, let's talk about that idealism and how they manage talent. If they've built this amazing, super efficient architecture, why open source everything? Aren't they just handing competitors the keys?
It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? Especially when you see companies like OpenAI and even Mistral starting open then closing up shop once they hit the big time.
But Deepseek is sticking with open source.
That's the commitment. Liang Wenfeng's view is that in AI, things move so fast that closed-source moats are flimsy anyway. They get breached quickly. Look how fast others caught up, even to close models like GPT-4.
Okay, fair point. So if the code isn't the moat, what is? Where's their competitive advantage long term?
According to Deepseek, the real lasting moat is built on 3 pillars. The team itself, the collective know-how they accumulate, and crucially, an organizational culture that fosters continuous innovation.
And open sourcing helps build that culture, attracts the right people.
That seems to be the logic. It attracts talent driven by the science, by pushing the frontier, not just by stock options or protecting IP.
And their hiring strategy seems to reflect that too. They're not just chasing big names, the returnees from top US labs.
That's a common strategy for the big Chinese tech firms. But Deepseek relies almost entirely on local talent. Fresh grads, PhD candidates. Apparently, the core team behind that groundbreaking V2 model, no overseas returnees among them.
Wow. So Liang Wenfeng believes they can grow top talent themselves.
He seems confident in it. And that idealism shows up in anecdotes too, like the story behind MLA, that key architectural innovation.
What's the story there?
Apparently, it started as a personal side project. Just one young researcher given the freedom to explore an alternative attention mechanism because they were curious. Not a top-down directive.
That says a lot about their culture, bottom-up innovation.
And it points to this really decentralized management style they seem to have. No rigid roles. Tasks get divided up organically based on who's interested.
And the resource access is key, right? Getting GPUs.
Yeah, this sounds revolutionary for engineers. Instant access to GPUs and training clusters. No waiting for approvals. Liang Wenfeng apparently said, anyone on the team can access GPUs at any time.
That's incredible trust, and it changes how you hire, I guess.
Right. They hire for passion, for curiosity, sometimes maybe even prioritizing that drive over, say, perfect credentials. They want people who put right and wrong scientific truth, originality, ahead of profits and losses.
That's a pretty profound way to frame it, tying it back to his view that the real gap is originality versus imitation. China needs to be a contributor, not just
A free rider, as you put it, yeah.
Yeah. And all this idealism, this focus, it's all pointing towards AGI, isn't it? That's the end game.
Absolutely. Liang Wenfeng is bullish on the timeline, too. He thinks AGI will happen within our lifetimes, maybe 2, 5, 10 years, which is, pretty optimistic even by AI standards.
Very optimistic. Does that optimism shape their research direction?
It does. They seem to be making 3 big bets, 3 core focus areas guiding their AGI quest.
Okay, what are they?
First is mathematics and code. These are closed, verifiable systems. Think like DeepMind mastering Go. The idea is that high intelligence in these areas can be kind of self-taught and checked without needing constant human feedback.
Makes sense. What's the second bet?
Multimodality.
Huh.
And engaging with the real human world. So connecting the AI to sensory input, understanding context beyond just text, bridging digital intelligence and physical reality, essentially.
And the third?
Natural language itself, just deeply understanding and generating human language, which is, after all, the bedrock of our own abstract thought and communication. They're pouring resources into all 3 simultaneously.
So let's imagine they succeed or make significant progress. What's Deepseek's role in the future AI world? If they aren't building the next big consumer app, what do they become?
Liang Wenfeng sees a future with a specialized division of labor. Deepseek aims to be the provider of the core foundational models and services. The engine, if you will.
The super efficient, innovative engine.
Right. And other companies, maybe better structured for sales and scaling, will build the B2B and B2C applications on top of Deepseek's technology.
But that assumes the big tech players, the existing giants, will stay slow or be unable to compete at the foundational level. Is that a safe bet? I mean, isn't Deepseek worried about a company like ByteDance just throwing infinite resources at the problem?
It's the critical question, isn't it? But Liang Wenfeng has an interesting take. He argues that those big, established firms are actually vulnerable because of their size and success. Their existing cash cow businesses, search, e-commerce, social media, whatever, become organizational baggage. They create inertia. It makes it harder for them to be truly agile, to embrace the kind of radical, high-risk, foundational innovation Deepseek is doing, especially when it might cannibalize their current profits. They simply have too much to lose by disrupting themselves.
That flips the script, doesn't it? Scale is a burden, not just an advantage. It brings us back to that central paradox we started with.
Yeah. Deepseek's incredibly quiet, almost academic, idealistic focus on the really hard, expensive, 0-to-1 foundational work
is precisely what turned them into this sudden, chaotic, profit-generating market disruptor, the catfish in the pond, forcing the giants to react.
I think the final takeaway here, something really worth considering for you, is the role of confidence in all this. Liang Wenfeng noted that when ChatGPT first exploded, the reaction in Chinese tech was largely imitation, a rush to applications. There wasn't perhaps that initial confidence to tackle the core research head-on.
But Deepseek shows it's possible.
Their success is maybe a signal that real breakthrough innovation, especially for the younger generation of researchers, has to start with the confidence to go after the hardest, most fundamental problems first.
Which leaves us with a final thought, maybe a provocative one. As you watch this AI revolution unfold, how often are the old business rules, the standard playbooks we rely on, focus on quick monetization, lock down your IP, how often are they just irrelevant now? Maybe even counterproductive. Perhaps, as Liang Wenfeng suggests, the methods really are products of a previous generation.
And maybe the most direct path to market disruption, even commercial success, paradoxically runs through pure scientific idealism.
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.